Okay, I'm gonna need it. Maybe.
Well, for Valentine's Day, you know. Hello, Mayor Durham.
Well, I don't know why it's automatically up here.
Resolution is to see
Well,
you
it
every
used to
day,
be
so
up there, now
2
it's
days in
saying
a row,
the
I've met
street.
my resolution. You doing all right?
Let me break it real quick.
Oh, you're always mad. What are you talking about?
I didn't get to say hey to you last night. How are you?
How you doing?
I am well. How are you? There yourself is it?
I know. What are you getting?
Okay.
I'm no, most of them, most of them girl on me.
Did you get a ladder?
Come on, Cherry.
Okay. On your tiptoes?
You'd be surprised.
Okay.
Hey, how you doing?
Because I don't think I can reach it either from a chair. But I'm just saying. Okay.
Are you gonna call? You gonna call her?
I'm going to. Yes, I was going to send her this picture. You want me to go ahead and get her on the phone?
Probably. We need to probably touch the microphone. How you doing, sir? How you doing? Good. How about you? Good, sir. Good to see you. Oh, you're doing all right.
Hey, John. How are you?
That's all right. Ask again in 11.
Good start. Good start. Great start.
All right. I told him I'd send this to her, so let me send that. All right, and now I need to call her.
Just get her to talk a second into the microphone. Just make sure you can hear from where you're sitting. You know everything. Because you'll have to get her.
Right.
You have to hear her.
Hey, Chickadee, it's Tiffany. How are you? I just sent you an invitation that we were all given, but I'm going to do a mic test on you now. I have you on my phone, I have you on speaker, and I'm going to do a mic test to see if we can hear you, okay? All right. So, say something.
Hey, how you doing?
Good evening, Councilman.
All right. Dean, can you hear her? Okay.
Good evening, Dean.
Good evening, Dean, she's saying. It's not, I don't know, my phone may not be the best.
Yes.
Okay, try again.
Good evening.
Where's my sound come from? I think it's right there. I think it sounds like it's there. Yeah, it's on speaker. Say something again, Jackie.
Good evening.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, if you kind of talk loud, I think we can make it work, honey.
All right. Good evening.
There you go. I think we can do
Okay.
it. All righty. So I'm just going to leave you on the phone for the time being, okay?
Okay.
And you'll just hear us all up here.
Okay.
Okay. Taz, I'll try to take notes for you too. I'll try to take notes as well as to what she's saying if you can't hear her, okay?
Okay.
Alrighty.
Seriously doubt it'll catch her phone voice. No, I'm just a visitor.
Have Jackie on phone.
If I get called, I'll think I'm important. But I'm just here to watch. Make sure everything goes smooth. I mean, I'll answer questions. I don't ask all my questions.
Jackie's here.
Jackie's here.
You gonna hold it the whole time?
Well, I'm afraid if I don't hold it, we won't pick it up. So,
You won't have to for a while. I mean,
okay, there we go.
all right. You ready?
Okay, we're starting, Jackie.
Taz, ready?
You ready?
All right. All right, if we can, it's 6 o'clock. Let's go ahead and call this Edgefield County Council meeting to order on February the 1st, 2022 at 6 p.m. Thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate everybody showing up. We've got three things you see there. We've got a moment of silence in memory of Linda Anderson, followed by the invocation by Pastor Tommy Barwick, and then the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask if everyone will please stand, and we'll have a moment of silence from Linda Anderson, followed by the invocation. Just take a moment to remember Linda. Pastor Barley.
Our Heavenly Father, we are so grateful to be able to be citizens of this county, of this country, of this world that you've placed us into. And we thank you so much for your grace and mercy today. We thank you for the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. We do want to pray for the Anderson family and ask that your comfort and your peace will be with them during their time of sorrow. I want to pray for each member of this council tonight. I pray for your greatest wisdom upon them. I pray, Lord, for the fear of the Lord, for we know that that is the beginning of wisdom. And we pray that you will fill them with the spirit of understanding and enlightenment to make the decisions that need to be made for the best for all the citizens here in this county. I thank you for everyone who is here, and we ask your safety upon us and your blessing. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Council, for the two things, one for the audience and for the minutes. It looks like Dr. Kenyon is not here, but that would be incorrect. She actually is here. She's joining us electronically. She's on the telephone here beside Ms. Ireland, so she will speak to us as we need to ask questions or get votes or things, and you will hear her. She could not make it tonight, so she is officially here as far as the meeting is concerned, so we have a full house. Council, for the approval of the agenda, before I ask for it, I'm going to ask that we move the Calvin Henderson resolution to right after the minutes, so that he doesn't have to wait, through the length of half the meeting here to get the resolution. So I'd like to just simply say that I move for the approval of the agenda. So is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Okay, Albert makes the motion. Is there a second? And Mr. Cooper seconds. So I'd like to amend it to move the Henderson resolution to right after the approval of the minutes. So I'll make that amendment. Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
Okay, and so any discussion? Hearing none, is there, let's all vote on the amendment. All those in favor of amending the agenda, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed, motion passes unanimously. And then on the main motion to approve, if there's no more changes, is there, then all those in favor of the approval of the agenda as amended, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed, motion passes unanimously. The approval of the minutes is next. We have three. We're catching up on our minutes now. So 3 regular meetings. I'll take them one at a time. First, the October 4th, 2021 minutes. Any changes or discussion on those minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Mr. Cooper makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Ireland seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? Yes.
Ms. Kenyon needs to verbally.
I heard her hand raised,
Oh.
but if you need more than that.
I'd say for future motions.
So, Dr. Kenyon, for the record, if you can hear me, I'm assuming you voted for the amendment of the agenda and for the approval of the agenda and the minutes so far. Am I correct?
Yes,
Thank you.
that's correct.
All right. So now next, and thank you to the attorney for helping me through that. I forgot we need to do that. So for next is the November 1st, 2021 regular meeting minutes. Any questions or comments or changes?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Talbert makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, and Ms. Ireland seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. And Dr. Kenyon, what was your vote on those set of minutes?
My hand raised in the air.
There you go. See, I knew I heard it. All right, motion passes unanimously. And then finally, the last set of minutes, the December 7th, 2021 regular meeting. Any comment or discussion on those? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Ireland makes a motion and Mr. Talbert seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? And how do you vote, Ms. Kenyon?
My hands in the air.
Okay. So all those have passed, and so now we will go to the resolution. So if you give me a second, I need to turn to that. Let's see. Exhibit 5. So I'm going to read this for the audience who is here. And I believe Calvin Henderson is here, sitting there in the very back. So I'd like to read this to everyone, if I can get to the right exhibit. So this is a resolution recognizing Calvin Henderson for his many years of service to the community, whereas Edgefield County Council wishes to recognize those persons who have dedicated their lives to provide services to the citizens of Edgefield County, and whereas many have said that no one loves Edgefield County and its citizens more than Calvin Henderson, who brings people together to serve one another, and whereas through Calvin Henderson's leadership, work ethic, and encouragement, he has provided food, household goods, and hope for those in need and the elderly, and whereas Calvin Henderson serves as an inspirational role model through the Feeding Needy and Elderly program, Special Needs Prom, and teaching life skills to many citizens. Whereas in 2021, he was named the Edgefield County Citizen of the Year in recognition of all his outstanding work, much of which only he and those he has touched know. Now therefore be it resolved by the Edgefield County Council in session duly assembled on this first day of February 2022, that Calvin Henderson be honored for his services to the citizens of Edgefield County, adopted this first day of February 2022. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Ireland makes the motion, Mr. Talbot seconds. Any discussion?
I'd just like to make a comment. Sure. Calvin, we appreciate you so much, not just you, but your entire team. I know that it's not just you. You represent a very large team. And Mr. Chairman, I wonder if he would be, if we could just give him a moment
Absolutely.
to talk about what he's doing with that organization, him and that team.
If you wouldn't mind coming up to the podium so we can. Well, we got to pick you up for the minutes. And Dr. Kenyon has to hear you, so you got to be up here.
To you gentlemen, council, Councilman Kenyon in absence, and all the guests in the house this evening, I'd like to say good evening. I actually thought I was coming to just kind of tell you guys about what we do and actually encourage the council to show up on one of the Sundays that we do and kind of sponsor it one Sunday, and all of you guys kind of get in there and throw a hand in and plate in the food and maybe go out with one of our the volunteers and help deliver in the community so you could actually see firsthand. It's one thing hearing about it, seeing a picture is great, but to actually knock on that door and see one of those elderly persons get up out of the bed and when they open that door and know it's us, the joy that just spills out of them, you just can't duplicate it. It's just a great feeling. It's what's driven me. First, I want to, and I'm going to try to keep this short. So that's something that it really wasn't something we started to continue. It was just something we were just trying to help out. And first, I'm going to call my wife up if I can get her up. We went to a couple of elderly people's houses. I think it was the second week in March. And when elder people, some of them panic about the smallest little things in life. And I went to 3 of them houses in one day, and they were panicking because they went to the store shelves and they were empty in 2020. And they just said, this is the depression. I've heard about the depression. I read about the depression. But when you see people 75, 85 years old, the fear in their eyes saying the depression is coming, it moves you. You go home, you can't stop thinking about it. You can't convince them to quit worrying, because you just can't. So I told her, hey, we got to do something. And my wife is not a hoarder, but I promise you, if it's on sale, we got to start removing it. So I went home and we took a couple of boxes and just started throwing stuff in it.
we had an abundance, and we took it back to their house. Now, when they open that door and see a carton of eggs, toilet tissue, back then, y'all don't understand. I still can't get under my what toilet tissue had to do with this.
Right.
But to see how happy they were. And we had a 4-pack. And what got me was we had a 4-pack in each box. And one lady stood there and tore the 4-pack open, took one roll and said, "Sugar, you give that another 3 rolls to somebody else." And I'm thinking, well, one roll might last her 2 days, maybe. Me and it might last 4 days. But I said, no, man, the whole 4-pack is for you. And she looked like she just won the lottery, Really? And I thought that was beautiful. So we did that for about a month and a half. And then I can't remember who we took it to next, but I'm going to call this next young lady up, Miss Cynthia Bull. Miss Cynthia called me one day and she said, I took something to somebody that she knew well, and they were so appreciative, and she wanted to just come by and give me something to continue what we were doing. So Miss Cynthia Bull, would you come on up, please? And Miss Cynthia, and I said, gosh, that's really touching. And I tried to give it back, and she kept giving it, and I kept giving it back. And she said, no, you're doing wonderful things in the committee. In the community. And I want you to keep on. And we love what you're doing. We see what you're doing. And little by little, we had, if I could get the rest of the team to come on up, all these people just joined in, little by little. And this is only about half of them here. We get together on Sunday morning. We plate it. It's cooked. Sometimes restaurants cook it. Sometimes they cook it. They prepare. Everybody just dives in and makes this work. So for it still to be going on almost 2 years now, I think we're right at 22 months. It's God's grace. It's a blessing. And, I just can't say, but, I love this community. It's not about the plate, really. I'm going to pass this around. If y'all would just flip it open there. Read this list a little bit, just the first sheet. If you see, most older people are not going to tell you what's going on in their life. They're not going to tell you if they want something. But it's like way back in the older days. You take a plate of food over there, a pitcher of tea or lemonade, boy, will they sit down and they will talk to you. And that's kind of what we do. We take a plate of food into their lives. And it opens the door to let us have a footstep into their life. And then they tell us about other things that they need. So if you look on that list there in the yellow over to the far right, you see that we asked them, is their heat working okay? Is their electrical, do they have a microwave to warm the food up with? Do they have problems with the porch rails? Do they have problems with the roof leaking on their house? What is it that we can help you with? And a lot of them won't tell you initially, but after a couple of visits to their house with a plate of food, they'll warm up to you and they'll tell you. So I like to think that we're bonded. There's a lot of different groups and walks of life for people behind me. And we're bonded together to help bond the community together. And I think if people can see what we're doing, maybe we can be a model and an inspiration for somebody else out there. So we kind of sort of challenged the county council to join us one Sunday morning and maybe sponsor, an event. And don't do it for the pictures. Just do it because you want to do it for you. You want to help bond your community. And we don't just do Edgefield. We do Edgefield County. So we're in Edgefield all the way to McCormick. This is your area. We're all the way down 378 to the Saluda line, all the way back around to the Ridge Spring line, all the way down to the Aiken line, all the way back around to North Augusta line. I mean, that's what we do. We do that, and they show up every Sunday that we do it. And Mr. Curtis, where's Mr. Curtis at? You might not can see him. Mr. Curtis, I think, is the oldest. How old are you? 80 years old. And, oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't. Wait, y'all, I promise you, they jump in and out of a car so fast and knock on those doors. We have 200 plates that we deliver, and we usually get it done within an hour and a half. And that's a lot to accomplish. But it's not just me. It's her. It's all of them. And I just want y'all to see what it takes to make this happen. That's all. Thank you.
Well, before you. Calvin, if I can get you and your team to get up here for a picture, I'd like the whole team to be involved in this, if that's all right with you.
Yes, sir.
What nights?
But first,
When do y'all do it? I did want to know.
We do it every 3 weeks. But we have boxes that we take out anytime because like I say, some of my people, it's really, it's about the plate of food, but it's not about the plate of food. Because once we go there, like this week we came back, one guy's got to have his entire round tore down. There's just, I mean, it takes a prayer to get in his house every week. And then next week for with the red hearts. Valentine. Yeah.
Don't you do that?
For Valentine, I've got flowers. I was scheduled delivery down. The next delivery is the Methodist Church in Trinity sponsoring it. But we've got a young lady that's a florist from Johnston who wants to donate flowers to all of the ladies. So we'll take part of the team. We'll go back out and we'll do that. And we'll also. There's another young lady that's decided to type up inspirational, spiritual messages to drop in everyone. It doesn't matter what your faith is. We don't care. We don't even care if you're an atheist. At some point, something in your life is going to happen where you're going to need a little bit of spiritual inspiration, to get you through the day. And that's all we're here to just help with whatever we can. So we can get everybody back up.
all right, so what I'd like to do, because the attorney's going to jump up and holler at me if I don't say any other discussion by council. Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution, please signify by raising your hand. Dr. Kenyon, what's your vote, please?
The hands in the air.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. What I'd like to do, council, if everybody will indulge me a second, let me see if I can art direct this. We got a lot of people, so what I was going to ask is, except for Calvin and your wife, if everybody else will line up behind us here on the team, and then we'll come down there, and that way we get everybody in the picture, I think. So if I get all the team members up here with us, and council, we're all going to go down here where you two are.
Okay.
So if y'all kind of line up. Oh, that's right. Y'all just line up right here behind us.
Sorry to cause y'all to have to rearrange first.
I'm going to pretend present this to you.
Okay.
Because it's missing from Dr. Kenyon's signature. So I'm going to take it back, get it, and then our clerk will get it back to you. All right, let me see who we got here. Y'all, like on the side, so we're even it out. So if you get it, I'll let you hold that if you wouldn't mind. All right.
Sam, will you scoot in just a little bit? And then, all right, perfect.
I appreciate everybody indulging us for that, and that was a very worthwhile thing for us to do and listen to. So thank you, Calvin, for that too. With that, council, I will move on with the agenda, which next is guest speakers. We don't have any tonight. The next is public comments. Let's see first, did anybody sign up? So if you signed up, let me just say this. So there are 4 public hearings tonight. The first one is on redistricting. The second one is on zoning regulations, not the map. The third one is on the zoning map, and the fourth one's on mines and quarries. So if you signed up for any of those on the public hearing, for the public comment section, you want to wait to the public hearing. So with that, can you give me whoever signed up, please? Because you'll have more time on the public hearing. Just go ahead and put it under that if you would. Okay. So nobody put the subject of their remarks. I'll just have to ask. I'll just start in order. Barbara Harris, did you come to speak on any of those four topics I just named? For the second comment period? Okay, so we'll hold you for the second one then. All right, John Pettigrew. Something on the agenda, but not those four items?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here tonight. First of all, I want to thank you for following the ordinance requiring an appraisal of the land that is proposed to be purchased for the new law enforcement center. Our ordinance clearly requires an appraisal, and I see that you've done that appraisal. Actually, I looked at the appraisal, and it looks to be a well-done appraisal and a fair value in my limited knowledge of land value. So thank you for following the law on that. The subject that I had a few questions on was regarding the renovation of the Kendall Mill into apartments. And in looking at this, and I read through the proposal and the request from the developer, and I'm not familiar with that developer, but that doesn't mean anything. Have y'all looked at other developments done by this company?
The administrator, if he can talk about that.
Well, the first thing to remember is this council has absolutely no jurisdiction over the Kendall Mill project at all. It's inside the city limits of the town. So the only thing county-wise that we will have involvement in is the building inspections itself. All of the zoning and approval of the development will come through the city of Edgefield.
But the request is for an abatement of the property tax assessment for 20 years. And as I understand it, that has to come through the county. So that's why the county's involvement is, and I would think the county would want to look at developments or know something about the developer before granting them a reduction in their assessed value from, the way I understand it, from 23 million down to 1.5 million.
Okay, so if it's like a fee in lieu or a historical building tax credit, that doesn't come through my office. That would be up to the tax assessor, and I don't have any idea how that works.
I wasn't asking you how it worked. I was just wondering, is anybody from the county looked at projects by this developer? I went online, and developers based in the Chicago area, and of course their address is that. And I just was wondering, had they done any in South Carolina? Has anybody looked at any that they've done to see what kind of work they do and see what their projects are like? That's the essence of my question.
Well, so far all I have done is work with the architect and the engineers on their design plans and, answered their questions and got them through the state processes for approval of, fire safety and architectural controls and that sort of thing. I have not actually even met the developer themselves yet. So no would be my best guess on that.
Okay, thank you. And the abatement that they're asking, as I understand it, they're asking for a reduction in their value of their land and building after completion from approximate value of 23 million down to 1.5 million, which is the amount they're paying for the property for the first 10 years. And then for the years 11 through 20, they're asking for that property to be valued at $3 million rather than 23 million. Is that correct understanding with those figures? I know not being exact, but the figures that are given in the agenda.
First of all, I've spoken to them probably at least a dozen times over the past year, and this was previous to my work with the county as I worked with the town of Edgefield, mainly in discussions concerning other projects that they have been involved in throughout the United States. This is the first project, to my knowledge, that they've worked on in South Carolina, but they've had several similar mill projects that they've converted into housing in Buffalo, in Texas, and Tennessee, and some other areas of the country. You are correct in that the property was sold at approximately $1.5 million, which is actually an increase of what the previous owner purchased it at. So if council does approve this, it would be $1.5 million assessment for the next 10 years. And then the following 10 years would be at $3 million. Our ordinance currently states for 10 years. They're asking for a special exception, not to change the ordinance, but for you to, under this one circumstance, to allow it to be year 10 through 20 at twice the value. This is exactly what Aiken County recently did for a similar mill project, not by this developer, but by a different developer. This particular project would have 120 apartments. The value of the apartment rent is, they're estimating about $1,000, which is higher than our current rent values are, but they will have amenities within this complex for their tenants. And being a historical building, they would not be able to receive these credits or historical credits by the federal or state government unless the property was on some kind of national register. So one of the first things they did is they hired a historic individual that just recently, I think it was a week or 2 weeks ago, they received the designation as a national historical place. So now they're able to get those state and get those federal tax credits. And we would need that also. I talked to Summer Pendarvis, who has worked with what we call the Bailey Bill. The Bailey Bill was first approved by council, I want to say 2015, 2016 time period. We had a home at that time that was wanting to receive these tax credits. Then, and I believe it was 2019 or 2020, you allowed commercial property, and you had the Wells Fargo that you approved in 2020 for these tax credits. Again, the tax credits are there if they follow the historical standards that are necessary to keep this as a historical property, and those standards they're planning on keeping.
Does that answer your question, John?
That was a good explanation of the whole project and a lot more than I was asking. So I do have a couple more questions, okay, please. Are they planning to have any kind of subsidized rent or low income type?
Market rate.
Market rate, fully paid for by the
That's correct.
by the tenant. Okay, thank you. And this assessed value, which essentially is going to lower their taxes over the 10 or 20-year period, will that also apply to what they would potentially pay to the school system, or is it just the county tax portion?
My understanding of the bill that, the ordinance that council approved is not only just, it's the county taxes for school and for county taxes.
Has the school been consulted about their opinion on this particular project?
Not on this particular project. They were consulted on the bill or the ordinance when it was approved.
Okay. And my final question tonight, I wasn't sure if this is something that gets approved in one vote tonight, because it says approval of preliminary consideration. So what is the procedurally, where are we with item 5 on the agenda?
Preservation, what's it called, Edgefield Preservation that Max Shanks is over. We'll have to look at the plans, make sure it meets all the historical standards. Summer Pendarvis has already looked at it. She assures me that it meets those standards. And then before everything is approved, they will have to come back, again, Max Shanks, and make sure that they did everything properly according to the plans.
Is it like 3 readings and votes
No,
by
this is-
council, or?
At least the way I reviewed it from the Wells Fargo, council approved it in one reading.
And this tonight is scheduled to be the one and only reading of this?
Unless council decides not to, that is correct.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I gave John more than 5 minutes because we probably talked more than he did, meaning that the staff
And
minutes.
and I will not talk about it when it comes up then.
And you can, but I just,
Good information that he
Yes.
provided, more than I asked.
I agree. Yeah, just explain to people. And so just to remind everybody, it is a 5-minute, and I should say this at the beginning. There's a 5-minute limit per person, 30 minutes total. And I've asked our clerk to keep time, and she will properly tell us when there's 4 minutes passed and then 5 minutes. So with that, we have one more person signed up, unless he's going to speak at a public hearing instead of this. John Galt? You going to pass to the public hearing, or?
It's about the public hearing.
Or do you want to wait to the public hearing?
No, it's about the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
You know, we talked public hearing, and I believe last month, you made a comment that you wanted it publicized or words to that effect. Edgefield County is shrinking, because I don't see anybody here. And I want to know if you're letting the people know, how are you letting them know? Because I walked the neighborhood this last weekend, I talked to probably 50 different people, and nobody knows what you guys are doing. And my question is if you're having a public hearing, why isn't the public aware of the hearing? How are they supposed to find out? And you can't tell me, well, they're supposed to look at my webpage, because maybe they don't have internet. I think you guys are the ones working on trying to get Edgefield fully linked in. So we already know that there's a good portion of Edgefield County that doesn't even have internet, so they can't use internet. So my question is if you're having public hearings, how are you notifying the people that there's a public hearing, what the topics are, and what's being discussed? Because what I see is a lot of backdoor stuff, because if the people don't know what you're doing, and you're in here making all these votes that are affecting them on their daily lives, something's wrong. Something is seriously wrong. And I'm holding you 5 people up here responsible for that, because that's your job. Your job is to represent. You weren't voted in as kings and queens. You were voted in as representatives of the people. And you can't represent the people unless you let the people know what's going on and get their feedback on this stuff. I've been coming to these meetings for a while, and I just don't see the bodies showing up. So my question is do the people really know? Because I can say the people I talked to didn't have a clue. They don't know they're being redistricted. They didn't know they're being cut out of a area that they've been in for the last 20 years. Now all of a sudden, by the flip of the pen, they're being cut out. That's all I had to say about the public.
So, all right, thank you. With that, council, I will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is reports. Any questions or comments on the reports? Hearing none, we'll go to public hearings. The first public hearing is ordinance number 2021-795, an ordinance establishing new electoral districts for the election of members of Edgefield County Council pursuant to the United States Census of 2020 and in compliance with Section 4-9-90 South Carolina Code of Laws 1976 as amended. This would be the redistricting public hearing. So is anyone here to speak on that public hearing? Mr. Galt, please come back up.
So I still got an issue with the zoning map. I live at 216 Sweetwater Creek Drive. My name's John Galt, if you didn't know that. My street's being cut in half. So my neighbors down the road are going to be in one district and I'm going to be in another district. It's the same thing with that whole cube right there, that whole cube that got cut out. I mean, I think they call that gerrymandering, protecting your vote.
my question is why did you come so far down into Meriwether and then cut in and take out that chunk? And you took out a chunk there and putting them in District 2, but yet District 2 has no impact on these people at all. District 2 will never have an impact on these people at all because behind them is woods, creek, and a river. But their daily lives are impacted by what happens in Meriwether, which is the district you're cutting them out of, which is in District 5. And even though you cut them out, they're affected by that Meriwether transactions that happen all the time. You want to talk about suppressing the vote? Let's talk about suppressing the vote, because now you're taking about 380 people's vote away from them on something that affects them every day of their life. Whereas in District 2, nothing there affects them. But when you look at what you did there, it affects them all the time. And you look at this map here.
You need to speak at the mic, John, so that people get it.
Can you hear me? If you look at this map right here, you can see how large District 2 is, and District 2 surrounds Meriwether 1 and 2. My question is, why didn't you chop over here where there's less impact on the people, because District 2 is already cut into Meriwether? Why are you cutting over into District 1, Meriwether 1, and chopping them people out of an area that affects them every day? And I brought this up, and I brought this up, and I brought this up, and it's fallen on deaf ears. And I can tell you that the people I spoke with this weekend didn't have a clue they're being cut out. And a lot of them have concerns, and I'm hoping that you guys are getting phone calls from them, or at least some of them, or at least you got some messages. But I'm highly concerned with what we're doing with cutting us out of a district that affects us every day, where you could have gone to the east side of Meriwether 1 and 2 and done some cuts over there and not affected anybody at all in their daily lives like you're doing with these people here. Thank you.
Thank you. Still on public hearing for ordinance number 2021-795, redistricting. Anyone else here to speak in that public hearing? Okay, hearing none. Council, I will close that public hearing and move to the second public hearing, which is a public hearing on considerations of ordinance number 2021-796, an ordinance to amend chapters 8 and 24 of the Edgefield County Code of Ordinances, Buildings, and Building Regulations, Land Development. This would be zoning regulations, not the zoning map. The zoning map comes next. So these are the actual written regulations that we have been taking up. So with that explanation, is there anyone here to speak at this public hearing 2021-796? Okay, hearing none, council, I will close that public hearing and move to the third one, which is a public hearing on ordinance number 2021-797, an ordinance to zone or rezone certain properties located in Edgefield County. This would be the zoning map. So is there anyone here to speak on the ordinance number 2021-797 public hearing? Okay, hearing none, council, I will close that public hearing, move to the fourth public hearing on ordinance number 2021-798, an ordinance to amend chapter 24 of the Edgefield County Code of Ordinances, quarries and mines. So is there anyone here to speak on that ordinance tonight? Okay, hearing none, council, I will close that public hearing and we will move to old business. Old business, the first four are going to be the four public hearings we just had. So in each one of these, I'm not going to read the whole entire thing again. So I will just tell you that under old business number 1, this is consideration of approval of third reading of ordinance number 2021-795, which is the redistricting item. And I'll ask the administrator, is there any change from this, from our last meeting, anything we need to consider tonight differently?
There is none.
Council, any comments or questions related to ordinance number 2021-795, redistricting?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a comment. Sure. I haven't written anything down, but last month we had several people come and talk to us about their concerns about this being a divisive process. And I would just concur with that sentiment. I I mean, if you look at the Constitution of our country, our Constitution is a non-respecter of person principled document. Race, socioeconomic status, any of the things that divide us aren't entered into that document, with the exception of the 3/5 clause, which is an old issue. So I understand your concern about this, but the biggest challenge that I just want to convey as a council, and I would like to believe council is in agreement with me, District 5 grew in population by 590 people, when the other districts actually decreased. That's the reason for the shift. What I wish was the case, and was represented last month, is that we weren't looking at race, because it divides not only streets, but communities. I'm in the Sweetwater community, and there's no way for me to embrace my community because of the way the electoral zones work. And that's just a fact. That is federal law. It's not our law. So for those that are upset, I would recommend speaking with your federal representatives. Representative for us is Representative Duncan. Perhaps you have the other representative down in North Augusta, but I think Duncan represents all of Edgefield County and our U.S. senators. So that was the only comment that I had.
Thank you. Council, any other comments or questions? Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to give third reading to ordinance number 2021-795?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cooper makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Talbot seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Dr. Kenyon, what's your vote, please?
My hands are raised.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, council, is the second item of old business, consideration of approval of third reading of ordinance number 2021-796. This is the zoning regulations ordinance that we talked about a few minutes ago. Again, I'll ask the administrator, is anything that we need to know about this one? Anything changed from the last meeting? Anything?
There are no changes.
Any recommendations or anything from staff?
No, other than Councilmember Cooper had asked some questions concerning the agricultural, as far as the use table was concerned. And so Doc is here to answer those questions. And if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to let him answer those questions. Sure.
To make this easier, I'm just going to pull it up on the screen so you can see it. And Taz, I'm about to take control of the computer, so don't freak out. So I came up with two different options. Just so you know, it wasn't an issue with it. This says exactly the same thing as always said. I just rephrase it so that it's a little clearer for the constituents. My recommendation is going to be option 2. Okay, so basically the only thing that changed is I changed the asterisk to I get there eventually. Maybe. All right, so instead of referencing the 10-acre rule, I just applied it all the way across the board, and I changed the asterisk to denote that, and then I just cleaned up the double asterisk to note that it is for CAFOs only. So anywhere in the agricultural section, so anywhere in here, you know, hogs, pigs, farming, poultry, sheep, animal agriculture specialties, I just basically clarified that those asterisks, like in GR, if you got 10 acres, you're still good. If it's less than 10 acres, then obviously no CAFOs and that sort of thing. So basically just cleaned it up and clarified it. And my recommendation would be to go to option 2. Option 1 is basically the same thing, except it just highlights the 10-acre rule, which then you just have to go to another section of ordinance to find out what the 10-acre rule is. Option 2 is just clearer and easier for people to read.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I would make a motion that we adopt third reading with the option 2 changes.
Option 2 was the one that you said was the recommendation too, right?
That's correct.
Make sure I'm hearing everything all right. Okay, Mr. Cooper makes that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Talbot seconds. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of giving third reading to ordinance number 2021-796, please signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
I heard Dr. Kenyon say aye, so motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you. Next, council, is number 3 under old business, which is consideration of approval of third reading of ordinance number 2021-797, and this is the one about zoning maps. This is the zoning map, I should say. So I'll again ask the administrator, is there any change or anything we need to know from the last meeting?
At the last meeting, we had a couple of changes that were requested, and those changes have been made to the new zoning map, which obviously it's on your map, but it's an 8.5 by 11, so you really can't see the changes. But if you want to see those changes, again, Doc could go ahead and put those on up there for you. I thought he was going to stay up there, but just so you could see what these look like.
Primarily the changes, we changed the the Oak subdivision here. We changed it to RR, it was GR. So that just better reflects what is naturally already in place. Then we changed Fox Chase and Stephen Mills subdivision up here to RD, which again is just a change that better matches what's already there. We don't anticipate any of those subdivisions, being redeveloped or anything like that in the near future. So that zoning change just better reflects what was there. And then the only other change was this parcel right here, which was GR. We changed that to RR for future development purposes. And those are the only changes that are on this map from your last meeting.
Council, any questions, comments?
I have a question, Doc. Out of all the, in the last few months, how many constituents gave you constructive feedback on the land use table?
So expecting the constituents to read the land use table is not many. I'll just put it that way. The land use table, typically what I get is I just get calls of, can I do this or can I do that? Very few people actually go line by line through the, as you saw, 25 pages of table. So very few. Only the most dedicated, like Megan and them. They're pretty much the only ones that go line by line through everything. Most people just ask, can I still do this or that? And all they're looking for is a yes or no answer.
So when people asked you that question, how many times did you have to tell them no?
Very few times.
What
Other than the industrial zoning, pretty much everything is allowed everywhere. I mean, we don't have none of our zoning districts are very restrictive. Mostly it's just lot size requirements, setback requirements, and things of that nature that changed. So for instance, instead of quarter acre lots, we went up to half acre to acre, et cetera. And that's pretty much the only changes from the existing to what we have proposed.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to make a comment about the 3-year process we went through. I'm glad we went through it. I think it was needed. When you look at the fact that we're moving almost 600 people out of District 5 in this census, it's an indication that we need a plan. What is disheartening to me as we went through this process, and I just want to share this, is that the best decisions for a community are never made out of anger and fear. So going forward, I hope as we look at making additional incremental changes, we don't choose to make decisions out of anger and fear. I could tell you one more thing about my family because I've been attacked on social media pretty significantly. We first immigrated to South Carolina in the 1700s, actually from Augusta County in Virginia. And our family, we actually happened to steward a pretty large tract in the fastest growing district, and we chose to zone. We also have 3.4 miles of frontage road, which we maintain with trash pickup and everything that's involved. So I would just say one more thing. One piece that got removed from this process, I think predominantly out of anger and fear, was the overlay district. And overseeing 3.4 miles of overlay district on Sweetwater Road, Currytown Road, and Mueling, I hope that we will put that back in consideration in the future. So that's my personal opinion on this process, and I'm glad we are where we are.
Okay, thank you. Council, any other questions or comments on this ordinance? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve third reading of ordinance number 2021-797?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cooper makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Ireland seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please, of the ordinance 2021-797 third reading, please signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
And Dr. Kenyon says aye, so it's a unanimous vote. Thank you. Next, council, number 4, under old business, consideration of second reading of ordinance number 2021-798. This is the quarries and mines. We had asked the Planning Commission last month to take this ordinance up. They did. I'll ask the administrator if he'll walk us through what we need to know about the changes that they made.
At the meeting, we asked Bill Loish, who is the general manager of the quarry right off of 25, to attend the meeting. At that time, we asked him to give us some comments concerning some of the regulations we had here. He felt some were too restrictive. He felt some needed to have some changes in the other direction. The Planning Commission listened to his comments, and some changes were made, but generally they stayed with most of those that we had here previously. I'll just go through the few changes that they did make on number 1 under Exhibit A. We said not permitted on lots less than 10 acres. After looking at it and discussing this with him, obviously for quarries and mines, 10 acres was not large enough. So we went to 300 acres. And for pits, borrow pits that could be for dirt, it could be for sand, we made that 30 acres. The excavation shall not occur within 500 feet of residential. We moved that down to 300. Shall not be within 100 feet of a river, stream, lake. A lot of these regulations are identified with state regulations as far as streams and tributaries. So we went to 50. We did add that fencing along the entrance road, maybe of different type. Therefore, if you're a neighbor there, do you want to have a chain link fence right along the roadway, or would you rather have more like a 3-rail fence, something that's more attractive? And so we did make that change. And number 7, we beefed up the entrance area to a much heavier construction material, knowing that that probably was going to last, and we lengthened that. So Bill said, like 50 feet's not enough, that depth is not enough, and so we made that change. No other changes were made, except we did add an additional one. We're concerned about traffic. Just, for instance, the quarry off of 25, when a large, fully loaded truck is pulling onto 25, it's going very, very, very slow. And by the time it gears up to its final gear, he might be a half mile to a mile down the road. But meanwhile, an accident could occur, so we felt a traffic study was going to be needed to look at all the major roadways within a certain distance of that minor quarry. Maybe we need an acceleration lane in some of these. Maybe we need a left-hand turn lane going into some of these quarries. And that's what the traffic study will provide. So we added item number 11, a traffic study by a licensed engineer shall be completed for the proposed operation. The study will analyze the traffic volumes at the entrance intersections of the proposed mine or quarry, roads and all intersecting roads within 1 mile. So at least 1 mile from that quarry or pit, we would go ahead and look at all the major roads. The engineer will determine what, if any, improvements are required on the adjoining roads. The study will measure the current level of service of the adjoining roadways before and after the development occurs. So level of service measures the traffic volume during peak periods and determines how the interfacing traffic will affect that roadway. Peak periods normally in the morning 7 to 8, in the evenings 5 to 6, but it also will look at other times. And then you go ahead and give it a designation of A, B, C, D, E, A being the best. The grades go down, as at least I learned when I was in school. The lower the grade, the worse it was. Had a lot of experience with that. So the traffic engineer will go ahead and give us a report, and that would be part of the process in approving a mine or pit or quarry. So those are the additions, the changes. The Planning Commission did not have any other recommendations other than what you have here.
Okay, thank you. Council, comments or questions on this ordinance?
I have a couple. Can I?
Go ahead.
First of all, I just want to say thank you to Doc for all the hard work you put into this. When I came to you about this, you got right on it. You put something great together. I really do appreciate what you did. I want to thank Mr. Bill for coming and giving a presentation to you. I wasn't able to be at that presentation, but I understand you did a great job, and I really do appreciate him taking the time to do that. When I look over the corrections that were made, most of them beefed up, as you noted. The only two were number 2 and 3, where we went back a bit. Doc and I have discussed this, and I'm good with it. But Doc, would you just, for those who might be interested, explain why we did drop back there, if you don't mind?
So on number 2, we went from 5 to 300 feet because Mr. Lowish, he kind of gave us an inside track on how mines and quarries operate. In between their setback zones and their actual operation, they take the excavation material that they don't use and they pile it up to make sound barriers, sand barriers, and fill barriers that once the mine is decommissioned, they can then push back into the mine or quarry. And so it's not meant to be so much less restrictive as to give them that extra 200 feet for those, sound barriers and, mounds of dirt, if that's what you want to call it. And then number 3, we reduced that to 50 feet simply because he made a good point. DHEC will allow them to delineate wetlands. DHEC will allow them to move creeks and divert rivers, and there's ways to do all of those things. So we reduced that just to be so we make sure that there's no contamination, but otherwise no more restrictive than that, because if they had to, they would just divert it anyway.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions from council?
Well, I would like to say, I'd like to piggyback on what Tiffany just said. We noted that the biggest part of mine's becoming anybody way is being Tiffany in my district. And Doc, I'm very appreciative of you in the planning commission, what y'all have done, because y'all looking out for us. And Roger had said about the traffic study, we need that very bad up there, because the traffic do get heavy up on that end. And so we appreciate all the hard work that y'all are doing. We just hope that y'all will keep it up. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? I just have one. On number 7, one of the changes changed it from the first 50 feet to 200 feet, except, you know how you'll write out 50, then put 50 in parentheses. So the 50 in parentheses was changed to 200, but not the word 50. So it would be confusing a year from now if somebody says, was it 50 or 200? So the 50 needs to be changed to 200 also.
You are correct. That's a typo. I'll fix that.
Just to avoid confusion later on. Words matter. All right. Council, anybody else got anything? If not, then let me get back to where I'm supposed to be. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number, give second reading to ordinance number 21-22-798?
So moved.
Ms. Ireland makes a motion, and Dr. Kenyon seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Dr. Kenyon says aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're moving then, council, to new business. The first item we took up earlier tonight, so I'll move to the second item of new business. This is consideration of approval of first reading of ordinance number 21-22-799 to amend section 2-288 Edgefield County Code of Ordinances, Economic Development Committee. You can see what's there in the bold print. I did want to add a little bit of context for people who might not know. This committee has been basically unchanged in 3 decades, but the world of economic development, that's commercial, retail, industrial, all around us has changed dramatically. This committee needs to evolve to become smaller, more nimble, more flexible. Under this ordinance, it can now call in the expertise it needs, depending on the project, but most importantly, it will now become more project-driven with a clear mission in mind to take on specific projects to bring more business and industry into our county, all with the best interest of the citizens in mind. I've discussed this concept with each council member, our attorney, our administrator, as well as our Economic Development CEO, Will Williams, and I've discussed it with the current Economic Development Committee. I've included all the input I received and found everyone to be supportive of this concept moving forward. So that's some of the work we did to do this. I'll ask the administrator, any questions, comments on your side?
You covered it well.
Okay. Council, any questions, comments from anybody? Hearing none, is there a motion to give first reading to ordinance number 21-22-799?
So moved.
Mr. Talbot makes the motion, Mr. Cooper seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes unanimously. I heard Dr. Kenyon say aye. Thank you. The next, council, is our usual appointment of our committees, commissions, and boards. I'm recommending some changes this year. Some things stay the same, some things changed. I won't go through each one of these. You can see my recommendations. I will tell you that on the Economic Development Committee, you currently have Mr. Talbot and myself. Assuming that we eventually give 3 readings to this ordinance, it will become just me, meaning that the ordinance says the county council chair becomes the one representative as we make that smaller. We won't have 2 representatives, so assuming we pass that, Mr. Talbot will come off of that committee. But he'll have his hands full with other things you'll hear about in a minute. Also, I've added a new committee called Cities Counties Collaboration Committee with Ms. Ireland and Dr. Kenyon. This is new, and I mentioned this last month for people who might have been here. So we have 4 municipalities in Edgefield County: Trenton, Johnston, Edgefield, and North Augusta. And so those people all pay county taxes. And so I want to have an opportunity, particularly since the mayors would not be a part of the Economic Development Committee. I think they still need to be listened to because they represent, a larger constituency that they want to have the ear of county council in some of the projects they might want to do. So Ms. Ireland and Dr. Kenyon have agreed that they would meet periodically with the 4 mayors and any designees they may want. And that way we can at least get some direct input from the towns on what they may or may not need and how things are working. And I think some of that input may filter over to other committees. For example, they may talk recreation. Well, there's a recreation committee, so they could pass that on to them. So there are other places that would pass on. Economic development, they could pass that on to another committee. So at least they have that opportunity to be heard. And of course, the vice chair duties there, as you see, although I will tell council, since our clerk just started a month ago, and we've yet to hire an administrator, and those are the only 2 people who report to county council, there won't be any performance evaluations for a while. So we'll give him a chance to take a break on that one, but hopefully as the year goes on, we'll be able to develop some of that. And of course, the finance committee chair. Finally, I wanted to mention, you'll see in the bold print, the recommendation includes not having a specific county council liaison for the fire board, the hospital board, the planning commission, and the county transportation committee. The reason I'm recommending that we not do that is that all those 4 committees are very significant in what we do in our county. But council is not a voting member of any one of those. And so instead of having one person being a liaison, which what you find out is when you're on county council, it's probably no different in your lives, you have a lot to say grace over, and it's just hard to make every meeting that you can ever imagine. So it's hard for us to be liaisons sometimes because it's just hard to get to some of these meetings. But we have staff who can tell us what goes on at these meetings. They can give us reports. And this actually opens it up for more council participation because I think there has been a little bit of hesitation in the past if somebody wanted to go to a certain meeting and they said, well, I know that county council member is supposed to be the liaison, so I don't want to step on their toes and go. So now it opens it up to anybody can go, and it might be, I'll call it issue-driven. If there was a specific issue in front of one of these particular bodies that affected one council member more than the other, I think that council member probably would go to that meeting or those meetings to listen. But the bottom line is the liaison has been a position that really doesn't bring too much back to council. And, let me just say this, these 4 boards are not shy about telling us what they want. So I'm not concerned that we'll be missing out on anything. So council, that's my long rambling recommendation here about how I would do the boards and commissions this year. So I'll open it up to questions or comments from council. Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the committee assignments as I have outlined them?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cooper makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Toller seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously, and if you didn't hear it, Ms. Kenyon said aye. All right, the next council we're going to discuss is the consideration of approval to purchase property for the county's law enforcement center on Star Road and Rabbit Trail Road. Of course, I'm going to turn to the administrator to take us through the details of this one, please.
This property we've been looking at for the last several months. We wanted to do our due diligence, and we're ready to purchase the property. We went ahead and had the appraisal completed. The appraisal stated that they would value the property at $7,500 per acre. That would come up to a value of $340,000. The property was listed for $385,000, and we're asking council to approve the purchase of this property at $325,000, which is $15,000 underneath the appraised value. The only thing we do not have is a boundary survey. Therefore, your approval tonight will allow us to go forward with the purchase. Our closing attorney, who is sitting next to me, Andrew Marine, will not close on the property until we get the boundary survey, because that boundary survey is needed as the official plat as to what we're purchasing. The reason we do not have a boundary survey completed yet, they went out there and physically did the survey. There is some question as to what is the right-of-way for the railroad easement that goes alongside of it. There's some areas that have indicated 75 feet. There's others that are at 100 feet. So they're going to have to go into the deeds and to the records and to find out actually what is the right-of-way for the railroad alongside of it. Otherwise, the boundary survey is complete. They spent a couple of days out there doing that. And we're ready to close on the property. I believe it's in approximately 2 more weeks. We'll be meeting with our architect to go over the final engineering for the land plan or the site plan that we'll have for the Physical Law Enforcement Center. So we're excited. This is something that the citizens in Edgefield County voted on to approve the Law Enforcement Center. We do know that due to rising prices for everything, that the original estimated value of approximately $28 million is now going to be somewhere higher than that. We're looking the mid-30s to maybe even higher than that. It all depends on some of the prices, especially for steel and concrete and plastic, going to go up or down in the next 6 to 12 months. The design will be completed in the spring, and a letting or a bid will take place in the early summer, and council would be having the opportunity to approve the final bid contractor probably by midsummer, and they would get started later this fall. We have about 1.5 years of construction to complete the project. To pay for it, we have a nonprofit board that council approved. We are going to be talking to the attorney tomorrow to go over the last little bit of details, and that nonprofit board would then go ahead and start the process to borrow the money from some institution or bonding company, and then we will be paying back this nonprofit board with payments as necessary. So that kind of gives you the sequence of where we're at and where we're going to be going. But until we could buy this property, we can't move any further with the siting and with the rest of the details on the actual plans for the facility. We're recommending you move forward with this purchase at $325,000.
All right, and let me ask a couple of quick questions. So on this property, obviously, we've done all the due diligence we need to do to make sure that everything's ready to go.
That is correct, including a Phase 2 environmental study.
And since the sheriff is here, I will ask for his input. I know you've been involved heavily in the process from the get-go. I just want to make sure you're satisfied with this because this is sort of like your facility. Thank you. Council, questions or comments? Mr. Cooper?
I just have a quick question that's semi-related. I apologize, I wasn't there last night. I had some family health issues, but I wondered, our legislative delegation was at our intergovernment meeting last night. Was there any discussion about them hoping to provide some funds through the SRS settlement for this?
I sat at the table with both Bill Clyburn, Bill Hickson, and that was a topic of conversation more than once. They can't guarantee anything, but they did express great optimism that we will get a substantial amount of money through the plutonium settlement.
Thank you.
Let me just, if I could, Mr. Chairman, kind of follow up on that. The current local option sales tax will bring into the county about $10 million. So then in another 6 or 7 years, there will be another sales tax referendum. It'll probably take 3, maybe even 4 sales tax referendums. Wow, it's getting late. To complete this process. But if we get enough money from the plutonium settlement, and there are other money coming into the state through ARPA and through some of the infrastructure bill money that we might be able to apply for to get even more additional funds. So we're hoping that we could pay for it sooner than what we're anticipating. On the flip side is we know the costs are going up. And that's unfortunate, but that's just the world we're in right now.
Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, hearing none. Thank you all for your due diligence on this, for all of you. So I know this has been a long road, and certainly we're very appreciative of the work that went into this. That said, council, with no other questions, is there a motion to approve the purchase of this property for the law enforcement center?
So moved.
Ms. Arlen makes the motion. And did Dr. Kenyon?
She did.
Dr. Kenyon seconds. Sorry, she beat you to it. Dr. Kenyon seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Dr. Kenyon says aye. So thank you. Motion passes unanimously, and we'll go to number 5. This is consideration or approval of preliminary consideration of special tax exemption for rehabilitated historic properties. And of course, we heard a lot about this a few minutes ago, but I'll ask the administrator for any other details we might need to know.
And I'm going to go directly to the ordinance that we have. It's section 46-63. And essentially it states here that the property is designated as historic property by county council. So what you're doing tonight is you're designating this as a historical property so that it gets receive the tax credits. Stating it's a preliminary approval because they need to go through, in the application process, the Edgefield preservation. And they will be the ones that will be going ahead and making the final certification and approval. And to help council with designating this as a historical property, I received this last week. This is from the Archives and History from the state, designating as of July 13th, 2022, that the former Edgefield Cotton Mill is now listed on the National Register of Historical Places. So it does meet the criteria that we have. State law allows up to 20 years for receiving these special tax assessments. Our ordinance allows 10 years. They are asking for the 20 years with the caveat that in years 11 through 20, the value of the property would go from what they currently paid, $1.5 million, to $3 million. And so we are asking council tonight not only to approve the designation, but to allow them to have the additional 10 years. And we're not here to compete with other places, but in some ways, we as a county are competing with other locations. Aiken County, at their December meeting, did approve one of the mills to be converted, just like this is being converted, to loft apartments, and they gave them the 20 years. So again, by state law, you can allow up to 20 years. We have only allowed up to 10, but they are asking for the additional 10 years at double the market value that they paid for it.
Questions or comments from council?
I have a quick question. Sure. I should know the answer to this. How long has that building been sitting vacant?
It's been several decades. It got renovated, I want to say in the 90s, and they were going to make it into an IT location. I think that would be a call center. It never really, did it ever get to be a call center?
It was a tech CTC for a couple of years. I think it's been vacant since '99.
So a couple of decades.
Thank you.
Can you come up here to the front?
The building's been vacant since 1999. You know, I was real involved with it when I worked with the National Law Church Federation, who purchased it. We did phase one. We looked at the roof. We did mechanical. The building is starting to deteriorate from the roof. The roof's warranty is out. It's over 20 years old, 25. It's lifespan of the roof. My concern is, this is great for the town of Edgefield. My concern is if it goes another 2 or 3 years without any maintenance or something done, it's going to really start deteriorating to the point that it's not going to be worth anything to the county, the town, school, anyone else if something's not done quickly. And this company we've been working with for over a year now, and they keep moving forward. So we're excited about it, and I hope y'all support it.
And for the record, that was Mayor Ken Durham that was speaking.
Other questions or comments from council? Hearing none, before I ask for a motion, am I correct to say that really the motion needs to both approve the designation and add the additional 10 years as you described?
I think that the motion does need to approve the historical designation. You know, our ordinance only says 10 years. And so I have some concerns. I've not read the state code about the additional 10 years they grant. I feel it's only within our purview to grant the initial 10 years.
Okay, and we're not asking the ordinance to be changed, because again, if another project came in, and the best example is the Wells Fargo that you approved in 2020, that improvement consisted of a little over $100,000. This is a $23 million investment. And so they were asking that you would consider this one-time exception to the ordinance for an additional 10 years. Again, just like Lake County, it is allowed under state law to go up to 20 years for a special assessment of this nature. Aiken County said, okay, we'll do it, but we want to at least see a little bit more value coming in from a tax purpose the last 10 years. What does this do for the county? As the mayor said, if we don't do anything, it's going to continue to deteriorate. But if you have 120 apartments, you could just imagine from a financial situation with the county that everybody is going to have at least one car. If there's 2 people living in those apartments, there's probably 2 cars. There's taxes on the cars. There's fees on the electric and gas and cable. The businesses in the downtown are going to be flourishing because people are going to be going to the restaurants, using goods and services from those additional areas. And I think more importantly, we need to have a mix of housing units within this county. When we have employers like Generac, maybe not everybody's looking for a 5-acre or larger piece of property, but they're looking for something that is going to be low maintenance. And especially if you're younger, a lot of times you're looking for something where you could enjoy that fitness center that might be in the building or the swimming pool or other amenities, and not have to take care of other property. So it does bring a lot of different additional value to the county, other than the fact that we're going from a $300,000 to a $1.5 million value as far as the assessment is concerned. Do nothing, we're probably going to get less. Do something, and it's going to make a big difference countywide.
Again, our ordinance is 10 years. I have no objection to the 10 years. I think we need to revisit for the additional 10 years. I really need to do some research on, considering I've not really looked closely at state law recently to see if that's an optional thing or whether, I just am concerned with us going outside the terms of our own ordinance at this stage. But again, I have no objection to the 10 years.
Let me make this suggestion, that council tonight would designate a historic property and give it the 10 years,
and then we can look at the additional 10 years at the next month's meeting.
Yeah, you can bring us back something if we need to do something different. Okay, well, we'll have to do something different because we're only going to grant 10 years tonight. So we'll have to bring something back unless it's not allowed.
Right.
Okay. So with that explanation, council, is there a motion to approve historical designation of this building under this bill?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Talbot makes the motion and Ms. Ireland seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes unanimously, and Dr. Kenyon says aye. All right, next, council, is comments from the public. I'll ask the clerk, do we have anybody sign up for the second? Now, I think you were going to be, I'm calling you first, but hang on one more second. Let me see what this is. Thank you. All right, so Barbara Harris is up first, so I'll call you up.
Thanks for allowing me to speak. My name is Barbara Harris, and I want to speak in reference to the map and rezoning. And with this here, you got like different developments, RR, GR, RD. The average person doesn't know what that means. So stuff needs to be broke down so people would know exactly what you're doing. So we'll know, as you know, because me, I'm paying extra taxes, a lot of money for being in this town limit of Edgefield. And I need to know what and why are my taxes so high. This may not be the place for this, but I want to know because I feel like it's affecting me because I know about my income. And the average person don't have it's no jobs around here. So you're making a minimum amount of money. So your taxes are so high with a little acre, less than an acre of land, when you're paying over $1,000 a year. And then you can have 600 acres and pay 300. You know, so I don't feel like that's fair to us, and we need to know why we're paying, what we're paying in the area that we're in, so that, you know, it won't affect us when you're changing the zoning to make us pay even more money because we don't know why. And then when you go ask questions, there's no paperwork that states that you're paying this for this, you know, for this reason or what have you like that, because we don't know. You don't have papers. You go ask for paper, well, everybody will tell you something, but I was always taught if it's not on paper, you can't go on what somebody's saying at the moment. So we need to know, as citizens of Edgefield County, why our taxes are so high, and it's getting higher by the year. You're changing stuff, it's not helping us. And another thing I want to speak on was facilities for young people. I see y'all talking about building a jail and what have you. What about the young people in this area? It's nothing for them to do. And I feel like if we're paying all these taxes and the governor states that we have all this money in South Carolina, why can't we build up something for these kids to do besides go to jail? You know, and it just hurts my heart to see. I've been here my whole life and nothing has changed to help benefit the young people in this area, to make them feel excited about. If you watch a ball game, you see where these young people have grown up doing this, that, and the other, but right here, where you gonna end up going? Nowhere. You know, and I feel like that's unfair to them. In order for us to succeed around here, we have to build up places so our kids can feel like when I get out of school today, I can go do this. You know, I want something for the minority kids and all kids to do, but I want a place built up for them, a facility, recreational area that will help our children to grow and prosper in life, not to be behind bars. And I thank you for listening, because that's on my heart. It really is.
Thank you. On the first thing you talked about with the taxes, because everybody's situation is different, if you would mind, before you leave tonight, and I'll put the administrator on the spot, if you give him your phone number and y'all can set up an appointment, I assure you he can produce all the paperwork you need to see relative to zoning, definitions, what it means, and how it would or would not impact your property.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So if y'all can get together.
I'm here. I might be back there.
That's all right. Not tonight, but, you know, I mean, you get it tonight. All right, so the only other person who signed up for the second public comment period is John Galt.
Well, I've been thinking, but I gotta say one thing, and then I'll I understand the census requires redistricting. But also understand that Edgefield County is part of the big pie. And to ask the citizens to contact their legislators doesn't do a lot of good. Because someone said that the Constitution is not a protector of people or persons. But yet, every politician is protected from not being drawn outside of their lines. So it is a protector of persons. It's a protector of politicians.
Can I make
Because
a
as a
comment?
politician, you can't be drawn out of your own line, can you?
Can I make a
Can't be
comment?
drawn out of your district,
Hang on,
can you?
this is the public comment period.
So I think that was misleading in that way, but I still think that we didn't have public opinion, and the public, the people of Edgefield County had no say-so in the zoning or in the redrawing of those lines. In no way, shape, or form. Just the five of you. And these two guys over here. I don't think Doc was involved, some of it. But you guys are the ones that are gonna answer to the people. Because we are gonna let them know what you're doing. And we're gonna continue to let them know what you're doing. You're not gonna walk free. Okay? Thank you.
I just going to point out the council rules say we don't have a debate between council members and members of the public during public comment period, but you have something to say.
I was simply going to say, when you run for office and you hold a seat and it's a census year, you will definitely stay in your district.
All right, so nobody else signed up for the public comment period number 2, so we'll close that council and go to the county administrator's report.
I have 3 items that I'd like to comment on. The first item is several citizens and council members have expressed concern about the convenience center on Sweetwater Road. We've done some investigation, and on Sweetwater Road, there are 3 lines of compactors. Up until recently, we had 3 workers at that site on the weekends. So that'd be Friday afternoon, Saturdays, and Sundays, which meant that 2 individuals were working with compactors, and the 3rd individual was working with yard waste and other yard-type trash or household trash that wouldn't go into the garbage compactor. It's my understanding that on weekends that the vehicles went all the way out to the highway, and there might be 40, 50, 60 people stacked up waiting to get rid of their garbage. We have done 2 things. We have asked Randy Duran, who is our litter officer, inspector, to go out there on weekends, and he went to every vehicle, asked them to roll down their window and to give evidence as to where they lived. Not knowing if somebody was going to go ahead and do something ugly or have civility. Surprisingly, just about everyone thanked him for doing that. He did turn away several people, but probably less than 10%. So, we're hearing that a third or half of the people that are going in there are from Aiken County or outside the area. They're not. But there were some. And he will continue going out there and working weekends to let people know that we are concerned about this. We have added a 4th worker. So we're adding probably about 30 hours or 30 man hours to open up that 3rd compactor so that we get people going through that line quicker. Hopefully this will resolve it. We're doing it now so that when we come to the new budget year, which is what we're working on, if this works, if this experiment works, then we'll probably go ahead and permanently put that 3rd person out there during peak hour periods. If we find out that we have the same situation because appears that possibly the one on US 25 sometimes has the same issues. We'll be looking at the same solutions. So wanted to let people know that we did hear their concerns and we're trying to do something about it. Second thing I'd like to talk about is broadband. Everybody wants broadband, and rightly so. We have identified broadband as being one of the critical issues for our county. As critical as electricity and water and sewer are for many people, because it's their livelihood, because a lot of people work at home or want to work at home. Aiken Electric Cooperative has made a commitment to all the citizens within Edgefield County that are currently their customers that by the end of 2023, they will have broadband. I talked to Gary Stooksbury and asked him how that was progressing, and he said they're probably 3 to 4 months behind. Of course, the reasons are what we always hear: COVID and supply chain delays. However, he did state that they have pre-ordered enough material for the entire system so that the material will get here on a more timely basis. And they're working hard to add, going from 4 crews to 6 crews. And he feels that once they could get back up to 6 crews, they should still be able to reach the deadline of 2023. So at the very end of 2023, beginning of 2024, the entire county Aiken Electric Cooperative customers will have service. That still leaves an area or a gap that we identified once before, and I know you can't see this map very easily, but if you see the orangish, rusty area, which is around the town of Johnston, going all the way down to the county border, and then coming on the other side of 19, there's an area. There's 1,500 customers that are on Dominion Energy and do not have adequate broadband. We funded 50% of a study, broadband cost study for Edgefield County for that area. I received this yesterday. The cost to go ahead and serve those 1,500 customers is approximately $5.5 million. When you break that down, that's about $3,500 per customer to serve them. So first thing that Gary Stooksbury, the CEO of Aiken Electric Co-op, said is, how much money is Edgefield County going to give us? And I said, right now, it could be anywhere from 0 to much more than that. What we need to do, and now that we have this study, is to go to our legislators who have received, I want to say it's $600 billion from the federal government through the infrastructure funds. And a portion of that's supposed to go towards broadband, to let them know there is a portion of our county that is underserved and will not be served in the future, and ask them for a large share of this. We do know that we could also go ahead and increase the cost to the customer, where other customers under Aiken Electric Co-op will be paying $49.95 per month. We could go to these customers and say, since it's going to cost an extra $3,500 per customer, you're going to pay $59.95 or $69.95 or $79.95. And by doing that in a 7-year period of time, or usually when you look at a payback, that raises $1 million for every $10 you go up, based on 50% of them being, actually wanting to get that broadband. So this study looked at a 40% utilization, 50%, and 60% utilization. If you'd like to have a copy, I could get you a copy of it. But I wanted to let everybody know that we are moving forward as a county. We're working hard to get broadband to every customer. The ones that are not on Aiken Electric Cooperative, but maybe on Dominion that aren't in those 1,500 are probably already on Comcast or Xfinity or some other system. So the goal is by the county is to make sure that everybody has it provided in some way or another. So it doesn't provide maybe after school things to everybody, but it provides something that I think for the school system, for those kids, it's going to be very valuable in the future. I know that Edgefield is looking at trying to come up with a system in the downtown area to have free internet for everybody in the downtown area. So it's something, again, that we may want to look at some hot spots or some other things in the future. The last thing I want to talk about is storm drainage. Storm drainage, you approved and asked the CTC to go ahead and do an engineering study. I believe it was on 6 roads. Each road had at least one, some of them had more than one crossing underneath the roadway. We had originally estimated about $600,000 for repairing those lines or replacing them. While they were out there doing the engineering, they found an additional line, and this one went down right down the center of the road. It's pretty hard to replace a storm line down the center of a road. So to repair that line, the price went up to $750. We are currently in the bid process for that work. We will receive the bids on February 21st. Will give us about a week's time to review those bids and hopefully be able to come up with a recommendation to council at the next meeting to approve moving forward with the replacement of those storm drainage lines. Why is this so critical? A year and a half ago, Mill Creek had a line that failed, and it cost well over $1 million to replace what could have been done for about $60,000, $70,000. And we don't want to have another Mill Creek. We don't want to have there's been a couple other cases in the county where that's also has happened. So by being proactive, we'll go ahead and get these lines taken care of before we have the problems. This should bring us up to date on all the lines that we know of that have issues. Then there's the Barton Road area. So Barton Road is, if you look at 25 where Bondex is at, there's a road called Bright Hop that comes off. This area has water coming off of US 25, a lot of semi-industrial commercial entities on the north side of Bright Hop, causing major flooding in the Barton Road area and along Bright Hop. We looked at several solutions. Doc and I met with the engineers yesterday. We believe the solution will cost close to $1 million to fix that area. It will involve several hundred feet of enclosed storm drainage lines, several hundred feet of open ditches, a detention pond. I feel that probably 30 to 50% of the water coming off of 25 and Bright Hop, which are both state roads, they should be paying a large portion of that cost. So even though it may be $1 million, 30 to 50% of that should come from the state highway department to help pay for it. So when you add it all together, we are talking somewhere around $1.5 million that we will be asking council to approve for storm drainage. But to my knowledge, that should take care of all the major storm drainage problems we currently have in Edgefield County, which, believe me, we're coming a long ways from where we were just a few years ago. So if everything goes the way we anticipated, broadband, the storm drainage, we'll hopefully have a solution on the convenience centers. We've got the law enforcement center that, based on tonight's vote, we're going to be able to move forward with. And I think council's just done a heck of a job in moving us forward. It still leaves us about $3 million that we have not committed with the ARPA money. And we did that for a reason, to allow us flexibility for other things that may come up in the future. And I'll be talking to council more about that in the very near future, what we could maybe do with that money.
as we go through this budget process. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the administrator? Okay, hearing none, thank you. The chairman's comments, before we go into executive session, I do just want to bring up a few items. First, I appreciate council working with me the past month to get off to a fast start. That means a lot, so thank you. Second, last night, council hosted the annual intergovernmental meeting. I should say annual except last year, thanks to COVID. But you've heard it referenced tonight. It's a time where 60-plus elected officials, appointed official, governmental entities, and others get together to hear updates on what we're all working on. Each year, this meeting gives us a chance to learn formally what's happening in each area, but it also gives us a chance to have additional conversations, learn more about each other and what projects we're about to undertake. It also gives your county leaders who serve the citizens an opportunity to be more knowledgeable about work outside of our own swim lane. So it's very valuable to us. And finally, I want to mention to council that at our March meeting, we'll have Will Williams here to give us his annual report on economic development. That's all I have tonight. I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session for a personnel issue, which is discussion of hiring an administrator. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cooper makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Ireland seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Dr. Keenan? Dr. Keenan says aye. And so motion passes unanimously. We'll go into executive session, and we'll be back shortly.
Maybe I will be here. I don't know.
Well, the mill's here. This is where Storm Harbor runs back in. You know where Rabbit Trail cuts through? It lines back.
Discussion, they were talking about tenure, but then in his motion, I was listening.
It's the historical designation, but we'll certainly have to.
I'm surprised, you talk about millions and millions of dollars. Yeah. To be done with one reading, and really, nobody knew about this till last night, when the agenda went out. Yeah. The agenda out at 5 o'clock yesterday. I got it. But anyway, I'm glad you're gonna be looking into that follow-up. Yes, sir. Go. Right outside the city limits of Edgefield. 25, you know where the Chinese restaurant is? As you coming into town, 25, you went 4 places. No, okay. I see this area. This is 25. So with White House. Yes, this is you go down the list, if they ready for trial, they'll go ahead and have a trial this week. But of course, you go in order too, and I'm gonna have to talk to Jim too. All I know is he sent me that and said we on the roster here, next week, just a couple of weeks ago, it came out. I'll talk to him and see, because again, I don't do trials.
It sounds like roster meetings are pretty much, they have things like that, they pretty much reschedule very easily. So,
I think you can go ahead and go to trial or ask for continuance or whatever. I think that's how it works.
I think that's sort of.
But I don't think.
Yeah, no, okay. So is there anything else? I mean, I really haven't spoken to Rick or seen him lately, or I've been just pretty occupied with other things.
I see,
Gary.
Rick at, Millbrook, occasionally we talk after meetings. She is a junior. Okay. Got a junior and a freshman. They can have. Yeah, it is. They like it, got a good group of friends. We need you. I think they get a good education. I hope so. Time will tell, but I think so. They don't have much homework, but anyway. Say I got it done in school or whatever.
Boy, they're at that age where the COVID really did shut them down.
I remember when you were.
It's been a lot of out of school, especially last year. This year,
Now, I'm good friends with King.
it's a lot better. I grew up with King. He's
Oh, that's right.
He's 2 years younger than me. Yeah. He was on student council when I was student vice president at Stumptown High School. And 2 years later, he was student vice president. I was gone, but, so I've known King.
He's a good guy. I mean, really.
He's got a tough job.
He's got a great tough job. He's handling very well.
One road right there.
I've been going to a lot of school board meetings and I've spoken to some of them about these quarantines and all that stuff. Get back to school. But, I'll tell you, school board is a lot tougher job than county council.
Oh,
It's a lot tougher.
yes. Everybody has ideas on their children.
That's right. More people are watching, paying attention, and emotionally involved about it.
See, Mike, so they wouldn't move him out of
It's
district.
perfect.
Now, that's a tough job.
Yeah.
This is never going to get, this is never going to get broken up. Never.
They're already broken up, but
They broke up over here. This is.
Thank y'all for sending me the, appraisal. Appreciate it very much. Thanks so much. Take care.
I will see you later. It sounds like they don't need me to stay. And I'm sure it's going to be 8:30 when I get home to have dinner, so. But I'll see you later. You got my bill. And yeah, if you can put me down as attending that way. My fear is council looks up and says, well, Andrew's never been in any of our meetings. We should pay him or something. I need the recognition for eternity. So, in the minutes. I'll see you later. Have a good one. Okay.
That's a deal breaker if they don't serve the second. Okay. I can tell you where we weren't sure. Okay.
See the letter.
Well, you want us, I think extension all the way up to that side, so the, yeah, I knew that. Okay, and there is no, and you know who I am, you know my mom, you know we family. I think. So that's what, I think we family, so, I have a small dining room, and I have, actually have a dining room table that you have to look in front of me. Mayor over. Yeah, you already got them murdered.
But you know, we really need to know, because I know George always say,
Yeah.
hey, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. But, and, I'm taking.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You won't fall apart if it gets wet.
Right, exactly, exactly. Bureaus of Public Service, you know.
Yeah.
I know how they got like this stuff.
Yeah.
Talking from my computer.
Right.
So I could download.
So that's. Hopefully the.
Yeah, Mark got it. Yeah, he know the history too, but I don't know it in every detail. But, like I said, anytime.
You don't have to know a password to put a code or something in?
No, you just, that's why you take almost any computer, plug it into a printer, and it automatically loads the software. Guys, you're tough, you're sticking around, I guess. Who writes for the advertising?
And you do a fantastic job. I now faithfully read you every Wednesday. Well, you'll have a lot next week, because I covered the intergovernmental.
I looked to make sure my writing is playing now, so we know what the.
John Goff shows up in the article. He shows up sometimes, but it
Well, they confused me, and this Teddy Crew.
I did, I printed a correction though, because John called me. And I said, oh, you're right. I got the John got one. I saw her last night.
That's good, you know,
Hey, you know how Tim Scott got started? He was county. Tim Scott, senator. The big guy. Anyway, I'll see y'all next week if y'all go. Listen now. Last month, it was just me and that.
should be glad, we glad to see some, every time something come out.
What happened? It was that dance. It was the very right. I know it. I could, they probably cut the computer off. He said, he was, they were looking at the board and I forget what started. I'm just so proud. I mean, he was getting ready to go. But it was before they adjourned the meeting, and it's not, it's not. And he said, if it wasn't for a bunch of loud mouth, and he stopped, and then Todd Brown said, it's done, it's over. Well, I pulled my phone out. I don't know how to do all the stuff y'all know how to do, but I thought, well, he's gonna see me on his phone. It's gonna really tick me off. So.
Almost got me out of here.
Yeah.
There's my notebook back.
I know you didn't want to take it home.
Yeah, yeah. I'll see you later.
All right, they have a work session at 5, and then they have a meeting at 6. So I came in for the work session, and Linda is the first one that approached me. I said, I had to go.
Yeah, she's a big voice.
You want? Yeah. I was gonna say, I didn't see it out in the parking lot because I saw your legs.
But everybody probably knew that Monday, they know the way it's going away.
And so after I found out, I went home and I told the truck guy. I said, you told me you were having some problems with it.
Man, I was going, and you know, this time it died.
But she and Carlene were not there, so they didn't
When the
vote.
rate came up in the
I
air.
guess they have a position that they have to vote on in January, so they didn't do that. And she asked me, and then we talked, I said, you got the good out of that one. And then she said, well, you don't know. And then I said something, and she said something about Linda, and I said, oh, I said, she's been missing. I said, is she in the car? And then she told me, she was passed away. But she,
I have had a few people on there. There's a genius on there and Simpsons on there now, so they're over.
system's got me is I'm still in Meriwether, but now I'm in District Two.
You've been distanced, ostracized. See, I'm up in the green zone stuff. I'm in the section that,
Left us alone. He's done this stuff.
I'm just saying.
He's pissed off the money.
After what happened at that GOP meeting and his daddy and all of this stuff, and when I wrote to these people about the voting on Kenya, she's my representative, I wrote her a big expose of my thoughts. And I asked her, I said, I don't know who is supposed to be running this county, but I got problems. And so then, not having been to last January's meeting, I didn't know about the voting and all that stuff, so I don't know.
Oh, no, he didn't. That other guy had to go. But yeah, bunch of stuff. Buddies live right there. Sweetwater Creek Division. Big money people. He's gonna.
I mean,
I don't think he paid attention to that.
well, it's just like Miss Harris. She lives in your deed, right, talking about paying high taxes. And I mean, have we not talked about that all summer long?
Well, the problem is,
It's not addressed.
when you live in the city, you gotta pay the city taxes, and then you gotta pay the county taxes. So your tax bill goes up, it's double. It's just like somebody was talking about Addison in the North Augusta. I go, why do you wanna do that? He goes, well, I get more amenities. Yeah, but you pay their taxes and the county taxes, so it's a force. And they go, no, you only pay one. Anyway, thanks, guys. I'm out of here. Y'all have fun. We'll see you next time.
And nobody could hear what she said. I could have said what she said clear with 50 marshmallows in my mouth. God. And I got so damn tickled when John started hollering. I could not get it together. And this one kept giving me the side eye.
She's always giving the side eye.
I'll tell you.
Keep everybody.
Did you hear me bust out laughing?
I was like, I couldn't. And then you was laughing too, and I was like,
I thought I was going to.
and when you did it, I'm like,
I thought I was going to get up and walk out. I was doing everything I could not to laugh.
she was not. She was over here giggling. I was like, golly, please stop. And then when he came over here and got loud, I was like,
That was when I got so tickled. When he started yelling, I thought, dear God.
that was so funny to me. And I didn't want to look your way because I wanted to crack up.
I didn't want to look at anybody. I really was trying to hold it in, and I thought this is happening. It's going to come out.
I didn't learn. I don't even bring my camera anymore. I can't sit by Jennifer with my camera because we're in trouble.
Dog. Oh my God. When he screamed, all I could see was two ladies over here, both of them jumped, and that's what got me so tickled. And I was like, oh God. And I wanted to say, I don't know why you're yelling about it. You're the one that's not heard the information that they clearly answered 3 times. Maybe they need to yell it at you.
All I have to do is look at Roger's face like,
He has brought that up 3 times. That is
and it's something we
federal law that the state can't change. It does, like, if you go to McDonald's and they give you the wrong meal, do you go complain at Sonic? Because that's what he's doing here. That's what just happened. That's what a crazy person would do.
don't think he understands.
I know he doesn't understand. He literally yelled it.
He'll be back next month.
I know he will be yelling at something else. And he won't know what that means either.
Have you talked to giving directions, really. Wow. Hmm. Like Twitter said she was a soldier, but she was a soldier. She was. I miss her barking at me on the message. There's something wrong. Well, you gonna fix it. You know, just
I know how
you know
she
what I'm
was.
saying?
Yes.
And then if I'm not on time with something, what's wrong with you? Did you forget? This little stuff. Like Jennifer called me last night, and I'm so glad because I went right back and fixed it. Did you notice it?
I saw it.
And then I bolded so you could see. Look, the computer, the homepage had been down for 2 days.
I pulled it up tonight.
No. It was down where you couldn't get on it. Me and Doc and I were trying to get on it for the last 2 days to put stuff on the website.
I pulled it up Sunday.
It went down Monday.
I can tell you when.
It must have went down Monday because all day Monday we couldn't do
So
nothing.
yesterday.
We couldn't do nothing.
Huh.
And he asked me, is there something wrong?
I didn't go on there yesterday, but I looked on there Sunday and I looked on it tonight about this.
Oh, now this was fine.
But yeah.
But shoot, I had to call course because I was like, I gotta post something because I hadn't showed her how to get on there yet to do it. But I was gonna get ready to come down here and post it on the doors. But they finally came up at 5 o'clock, so I had to hurry up. I had to hurry up because I knew I was supposed to do it earlier, but I couldn't get on to do it, so. And what do you do in a case like that if you can't get on our website? Besides put it on the doors and in the
I
courthouse?
posted on Facebook and I posted in the doors and on the office and I would post on Facebook and on the doors why it's not on the website.
Okay.
And I would just say, we're having technical difficulties, the homepage of the website is down. Was the county council page down? Or like the whole website? So I would just put our website is not working right now, as soon as it comes back up, we'll post it there. Cause I mean, that's not in your control.
And as soon as it got back up, they called me and I zoomed on and put everything on.
Well, he looks 100 years old. He really does. year ago November, or like, oh,
I've had it twice, this second go around.
COVID twice?
Did you have any symptoms the first time?
Yeah, I mean, but it wasn't bad. It was just like a cold. It wasn't as bad as the flu. The flu knocks me down. And see, when I had COVID, it was worse than the flu. No.
The second time
But
you
I
had
still
it?
don't have my taste. The second time I got it, I'll do.
Do you smell metal?
Sometimes, and
It's like a
sometimes
chemical.
it smells
Like a-
smoke.
Yeah, I smell,
Chemical
I
smell.
just out of nowhere, I just smell metal or taste it. No,
Taste it.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
taste it. And I told myself, why am I still tasting metal?
I've lost over half my hair.
My smell never came back.
My
the-
son's
the
never
year
came
ago
back
that I had it. My smell my smell isn't back as much as my taste is. My taste is probably like 60-70%. My smell's probably like 40-50%.
Well, my son was standing beside somebody smoking and couldn't smell it.
Yeah, I can't smell anything. Sometimes I can't smell anything.
In North Augusta, we've had some stinky people come in sometimes, and everybody will be like, I'll be like, I can't smell them, I can wait on them.
Used to every time I drove through Trenton, it stunk. I can't smell it now.
No, you're right, I haven't smelled Trenton
Well,
since.
you know, my
son said, he stopped the car. And,
He couldn't smell them smoking it out.
but they were smoking weed, and he knew, but he couldn't smell it.
Smell it.
But,
You know, I hadn't thought about that.
he said, they could just be having a good old time.
He wouldn't know.
but no, my taste and smell got jacked up. My taste and excessive. Anything I taste is excessive. If you gave me just a regular cup of soup, it would make me sick because I can taste every ingredient.
Really? Wow.
And the doctors told me I went through the opposite effects of everything. So where that, now I did lose some of my smell, but the taste, that's what messed me up. I mean, literally trying to, regular Campbell's cup of soup.
My
would make
favorite
me sick.
foods taste terrible to me now.
I
Like, they don't
couldn't.
taste as I see, some of the stuff that I used to really
Yeah, I
like
used to love.
is not the same anymore.
Really?
Can't taste it.
I don't like a lot of meat.
Now, Demetrius said his taste went away, but he said he's a shower fanatic, but now he's not sure because he don't know what's what, so he takes like 5 showers a day. If he's home on the weekend and don't work, and because he don't
Because he's
know.
scared he might smell.
Because he can't smell anything, so he don't know. And when he goes to the gym, he packs everything.
Well, you check milk with your nose.
And he can't smell
I
the
smelled
sour.
some without thinking. I wasn't even thinking I couldn't smell. It was just habit. I smelled it and I was like, oh, it's bad. And I started pouring it.
It was clumpy.
Lumpy, and I was like, oh God, that would have been so bad.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, yeah, gotta go. I'll just spend the extra money on milk.
So it's just different little things like that that's changed him now. And the other one.
It is
aggravating now. I can't tell my house.
You go in your house,
Yeah.
want it. I like clean sides.
You
know,
can't
my
tell.
house.
I know what you mean. Because he came to our house and he was like, because usually I'm a bleach for, he couldn't smell bleach. He couldn't smell nothing I had done. And when he cooked dinner, he poured so much hot sauce on his stuff. I was like, what's wrong? I mean, it was drenched. He said, no, I can't taste nothing. So I don't know.
It kind of like didn't tell us these side effects. They didn't tell us it was going to last this long. That dry cough, it took a good year for my actual, because it actually, it bruised my esophagus. I had bruised, my sternum, my lungs were damaged.
I would believe that my lungs were damaged just because I get breath.
But Scott, just because I know you were involved with,
He wanted to carry Jackie like a little baby or something. You got very carefully and.
I have to carry my friend very carefully. Dean says I'm carrying you like a little baby. I have to be careful with my friend.
I know that's right.
Just the troopers, the diehards.
Taz, you ready?
Where did everybody go?
Taz, you ready? Okay. All right, so we are, we have returned from executive session. We are now in open session. There is no further business to discuss tonight. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Talbot makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And Ms. Ireland seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Jackie. And she voted aye.
Jackie, we'll talk to you later, okay? All righty. Feel better. Bye.
We couldn't decide which one of y'all to make administrator, so we're still stuck. I'm sorry.
I love it.
That's right.
Your choice.
We are fresh out of quarters.
Oh, well, keep it.
It's you.
All right, thanks, same to you.
Now, see, this is what it used to feel like back in the day before LMO process. It would only be two of us the whole time.